Hello everyone, this is Dr. Klein with the Posture Report. This is episode 5. So last week we talked about the pelvic floor muscles. So these guys here. We talked a little bit about the diaphragm. So that's this thing over here. They're similar, right? We have vessels coming through them. They're both supporting the organs from below, from above. But we talk more about the relationship between the gut health, the pelvic floor muscles, also how they help the foundation of our spine and our hips, support the rest of our spine, make us strong, but also how they can be involved with prostate health and gut health. And the prostate was the big one out there for the guys because I know they don't watch the posture videos because they don't care. So this is all preventative stuff. If we can get these structures working right, we're able to balance the muscles to support the spine. A lot of good things happen. So today we're going to focus on the diaphragm. Breathing is really important, right? A lot of dysfunctional breathing. Chiropractors know because we have to breathe on the table when we're trying to adjust your spine. There's different reasons for that. I guess people want to know. This really doesn't fit into anything, but why we do the breath in the thoracic region is actually because that's your lungs are underneath there. So if we're pressing down too hard, there goes that. Sometimes you'll notice I will adjust on the inhale, and usually that's because I'm above the lungs or below the lungs. And a lot of times if people breathe in, sometimes, and you're more forced to do it when you're on a flat surface, is to actually get that. I could feel that low back stretch, and that sacrum actually pulls out a little bit, and it kind of opens up just for a second. Bam! Knock it into place with the drop table. So the idea with the drop table is using speed to adjust something instead of kind of forcefully adjusting something, or bringing something to a stretch and trying to let it go, because some people really guard. So if there's something that's injured there, lighter, faster is what we want to go for. And then breathing, when I'm adjusting the lumbars, all depends on what I'm feeling there. Usually on the inhale, that's when if the spine is too curved, it'll actually flatten a little bit, helps me adjust there. But a lot of times I'll feel people really breathe from the shoulders. The shoulders will come up high. A lot of people do they think good breath there. And the shoulders come up. That's a really dysfunctional breath. It shows that tissues are so restricted and the scalenes are so tight up here that we can't get that breath. Everything's just so tight that the shoulders are trying to lift to open up. So we talked about the recurring theme here is these two posture types, the runway model and the cheerleader posture. I'm more the cheerleader, so let's talk about that for a second. I could relate better. Lower cross syndrome with a lot of extension. So these erector muscles end up being very tight. A lot of times later in life, we'll give up trying to press back so hard. We'll stop doing so much extension up here. And I can even see this a lot of the videos I make, let's go back and correct that because it's really hard for me. I almost have to let my shoulders go, pull myself in, engage that diaphragm, because that's where I have trouble. That's where I got a lot of restrictions down here in this xiphoid process. And we'll go over the attachment points of the diaphragm. That's one area that's really tight. So the end of your sternum is called your xiphoid, means sword in Latin. So it's really restricted there for me. So I almost have to cave in, get my shoulders to shut off, get that breath, and then pull everything back into extension. I can feel that stretch majorly. So in the video, I'll go over how I'll just find that position, all that restriction, and just breathe into that restriction. We're decompressing with those breaths. Just do 10 of those, start shaking or expanding the rib cage 360 degrees. It's pretty tough. And then trying to apply that to your exercise is a better way to go. First, learn to breathe instead of just trying to breathe while you're doing a crazy exercise. Chair pose is considered, as I'm looking up here and seeing what other people are doing, that's what I do. A lot of videos out there on breathing, so go do some research. It's cool stuff. But one thing I noticed is chair pose shows up, and chair pose is essentially the founder pose. It's just a little more strict. Okay, we're being really strict about it because of everything we'll be talking about today. So, and we talked about how pelvic floor tends to be not too bad here with these guys. A little stronger in the pelvic floor. This is also can be known as the athletic hip. Like we talked about in episode 1, this could appear in somebody who's lazy or somebody who's actually working out a lot. We get the same degenerative breakdowns here. The difference is with the cheerleader is they're actively doing that extension compression. They're actually trying to pull the rhomboids back. And it's kind of a false opening of the chest, because it's actually more from the spine and actually less movement from the shoulders. So the founder is good because he kind of puts us in this hinge position because we're so used to arching. We have trouble doing that. You can still cheat even in a hinge position. So it's good to learn to shut these things off. When I first started teaching, it was all about pelvic tilt. And then it was all like, okay, let's focus on what we need to strengthen. Everyone needs to strengthen the same thing. And that's true. But we also need to learn to shut off the problem. So it's a combination of knowing what's wrong with you and then also knowing what the correction is. Because you could think you're doing the correction, like I have so many times, and you're not doing it optimally. But essentially, if you're feeling a lot of restriction when you're doing this, that's good. The shoulders are coming up a lot, and you're like, I don't really understand. This is good right now. No, it should be really tough. Oh, that restriction. And then do some exercise. Next time you take a breath in, you'll be able to, I can breathe in a lot more. I can get more. Because when things are tight, your body doesn't want to push against things that are tight. So it'll use the accessory muscles, and we'll talk about what those muscles are, the accessory breathing muscles, and the other muscles that are recruited to help the breathing. The diaphragm is not doing its job. Let's talk a little bit about the opposite here. The runaway model, which we gave it the name retraction and sway. These are postural syndromes I don't really see out there. We usually see the lazy patterns. Because I'm not talking to the lazy people. I can't fix lazy. This is someone who's actively trying, right? So we'll see the hips more forward in this position, creating this. And episode 1, if you want to review this, we're just doing a quick one over this. Hips in front of the shoulders. And the shoulders are usually very high. So later in life, they'll cause a lot of degeneration down here because the hips are not being a good foundation because they're too forward to support the spine. So we'll drop quickly into flexion, into the old man posture, because degeneration happened here. You're not able to extend like that anymore. And people think, oh, that's just lazy posture, years and years, but it happens really quickly. It's like, oh, that hurts, now I have to be here. Now I'm all hip flexor, when before you were trying to decompress your spine using your upper traps, so lots of headaches in this posture. And the pelvic floor is what's not doing so well here. So we'll see this, again, it could be a lazy posture, or this, as far as this part of the spine, or it could be almost like CrossFit athlete, functional strength training posture. Usually I'll see this in women sometimes, who are really strong, using the mobility of the spine, and a lot of times their spinal field too loose, too mobile. They're relying on their flexibility to lift these heavy weights, and then they'll get pelvic floor issues or lower back issues because we have lacking stability in the hips. So we've already beat that dead horse. So let's talk about breathing. This is a cool little picture. Just found this one. I'm like, yay! I love when people are like talking. I can find pictures about like the same things I'm talking about. Sometimes I feel like I'm crazy, and no one has connected the pelvic floor and the diaphragm before. I'm covering new ground. No, I mean nothing new under the sun here. So, this stuff is fairly obvious, right? These two structures look so similar. They have to be working together, and obviously they are. Look for this stuff in your kids. Watch your kids if they're breathing from their shoulders. You can tell that they breathe in the shoulders. A lot of gut issues. There's a link to an article. I'll link it in the video. Girl with IBS going to all these other doctors. All this trouble. This terrible. Anytime she eats food, lots of anxiety going with it. Breathing. She just worked on her breathing. It's gone. The doctors are like, well, good for you. And she's like, well, how come you didn't? You were putting me on like all these drugs trying to fix this problem, and no one talking to me about like maybe let's try breathing better and let's try some exercise. It's ridiculous because they can't make any money off teaching you to breathe. That's my goal here. It's like I just want to see patients get better, right? So any resources, any ideas that I can float into your mind that help you get better, good. It's good for me because I don't want to work on something that is the same problem every time. I want to see improvement. That's the goal here. It's not to get you coming in twice a week for the rest of your life. No. So here we can see some of those postures. This is the hyperlordotic curve here. And you can see how pelvic floor is not supported, the diaphragm is kind of up here, so that's not engaged. It really limits our ability to expand. Here's more lazy posture, which we're not really talking about. Yeah, it levels, sometimes levels that diaphragm out, but your spine won't move. And maybe if we tilt this person, this might be more of the sway we're seeing. We want them level, right? That's the whole goal. When you're looking in the mirror, you should feel like your hips and your shoulders, your ear, and your heel very level. And we'll go over that in the exercise portion of the video. So is it the diaphragm or is it the accessory? And it's okay to feel some of these. I actually feel them stretching is what I feel instead of engaging to pull up. So I almost have to like actively pull them into a stretch position. You'll notice, get that engagement. When I breathe, I feel it all in my stomach. You want to feel less movement here. I actually feel like a tug, like these want to pull and I have to resist. I have to resist my shoulders wanting to help out. So it's best of both worlds then. And it's an active stretch. Breathing becomes an active stretch. You're stretching something that's tight, gauging something that is weak. So gut health and breathing, it's same topic as the pelvic floor. And we'll get into hernias too, hiatal hernias. T. All about the T. All right, so diaphragmatic breathing offers specific benefits. Activating the diaphragm actually creates gentle massaging action felt by the internal organs, intestines, and the stomach, which can reduce abdominal pain, urgency, bloating, and constipation. Whole list of things here from the University of Michigan. Lowers heart rate, increases mental tension, increases blood oxidation. Blood, a lot of obvious things, but we just like, yeah, I know, breathing good, and it helps my immune system, it can cure cancer, just don't do it, right? We know that. Makes sense, right? It's easy to connect those dots. Little change, because we're doing it all day long, right? Breathing all day long. It's one of those involuntary things, but also voluntary. It's a voluntary muscle as well. We can think about engaging it as well. Just like the heart. Sometimes I think there's a slide on this is, you don't think about increasing your heart rate, but what you think can increase your heart rate. So emotion feeds in this a lot. Not my area of expertise. I like to bottle things in, but if you're strong physically and you're working on these things, that emotional aspect is not going to hit you as hard. So that's my angle at it. I'm very mechanical. I focus on those things. Obviously, the emotional is very important too. And we've talked about the sympathetic state. Kind of goes into what we were saying, the autonomic nervous system, things that are automatically happening. So you have these on and off switches, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. One cool thing is the sympathetic chain actually exits right below the diaphragm. So I think it's the median cruciate ligament is actually where the psoas attaches. So we'll talk a little bit about the biomechanics there. That's very interesting. We have this very dominant hip flexor engaging, attaching to the diaphragm, right? Because we were talking about the psoas last time with the pelvic floor being important. So what does it got? Oxygen to the blood helps digestion. Obviously, air is good. We need oxygen. So for breathing from the shoulders, maybe we're not really getting everything in there. One thing I notice is the spine really lengthens with those deeper breaths, and that's the discs open up. That's imbibition of the fluid coming in. Helps pump the cerebral spinal fluid up and down the spine. All this, so many stuff. I mean, there's so much stuff. I have no idea. It's like we're just looking at like the tip of the iceberg here in these videos of this science. There's so much more we don't know, and there's so much more that not even that I don't know, but that science doesn't know. Your body is very smart. That's the goal I want to point to. Is the body is smart. You just need to work with it. Little things like breathing, very powerful. A lot of times we're just missing the basic things. We're always focusing on, what do I need to eat? Or, what supplements do I need to take? Which drugs do I need to take? I just need that perfect chiropractic adjustment to my atlas with the right torque and because all the other chiropractors are missing that. And that's what I need. I need this special technique. And I used to think that way. And it's okay. We can think that way. And maybe you do need that, but why not try the basics first, right? Breathing, proper moving, rubber walking, pelvic floor engagement. Easy stuff. We don't give it enough attention. All right. I think that is the article. I want to check that out on that girl with the IBS syndromes and just doing breathing exercises. I think she's also got a video on it there of her doing hers. And we will do our own kind of foundation training style. I've had a couple of videos on breathing already, so I will compress all that thought, run through some of those exercises that I really like. Sometimes the things that I really like are to correct my problems, as the cheerleader posture. But I will try to think outside the box for the sway back positioning. If you are recognizing that that is you. Wise men say the body will not digest food if it's about to be lunch. So that's more the emotional thing again there. Heart rates, breathing increases when we are under stress. And this is chicken or egg, right? Because if we have the mechanics of stress, will it not cause stress? So if we're restricted, breathing fast, heart rate, that's going to change how our emotions are. We always feel like it's emotions that affect this. Sometimes just focus on that. Proper breathing. I feel better. I feel less stressed. I feel like doing a video about the diaphragm when all I wanted to do was nap before. True story. Alright, here's a cool one. So we got the diaphragm here, which we'll look at more, but some of these other muscles that are helpful here. SCM, really tight on lots of people, right? You guys know these scalenes. Maybe you need to do some release on there. Sometimes you can get like a lacrosse ball laying on there, help releasing that, get a nice massage. We're good at loosening these things up, going to the chiropractor, but then we have to use the things, right, to teach them. Otherwise, they're just going to tighten up again. Why are they tight? Probably because we're breathing wrong. Probably important there. Pec muscle, coming into the shoulder girdle here, attaching to the ribs. All these things you notice. Ribs, well, SCM is clavicle. We'll let that one go. Obviously, that needs some movement there. But ribs are important. A lot of us are so restricted in those ribs. We have very little rotation in the thoracic spine to begin with. So working these areas. And I'm like the worst defender. I'm always at the gym, and Adam's like, come on, hit that subscap push-up, pull in. I'm like, I'm in as it's going. It's like, tuck the hips. And it's so restricted, and that's when you feel it. That's when you're on the grind and you're hitting this stuff. That's when you notice, oh dang, yeah, that can't be good. When I get the 3D body scan, and it's like, ooh, right, yeah, we got things to work on. Things we don't notice. We don't really notice because it's that dimming light bulb effect. Slowly getting dim, we don't really notice how dark it's gotten, like how dark this room is. My light bulb that I need to change. All right, moving on. But it's a good point there. It's like, get out, get moving, even if it's simple stuff, to realize Dr. Klein is right. I don't really have a lot of expansion. Oh, that's really tight. Oh, I got this cramp. Oh, it's cramping when I'm doing that. A lot of people start cramping, like, oh, I don't want to do that. It's cramping. It's just showing you how much imbalance you have. You try to breathe right, you're getting a cramp, right? Sometimes when people lay on a table, they get a cramp. It's like, because you're actually forced to be level for once in your life. You're laying flat on the surface. Your body's, ooh, I don't like that. Ooh, imbalance. And you're like, oh, wow, that's really imbalanced. I need to work on this stuff. Because we're just so good at pushing through in our society. I already talked about this, but anchoring, well, I often use the word anchoring when I'm doing the exercises. It's actually the diaphragm is flattening to allow air to fill in, expand the lungs. So we need to contract that diaphragm. The better we are able to contract or flatten, if you will, what I call anchoring, the more we're able to get some extra air in. The more air we get in, the more we'll expand those ribs. They're very restricted. That's one way we can actually get some motion in that thoracic spine where we're so stiff all the time. All right, and the cool picture there. So the psoas muscle, which we're always talking about. And this is psoas minor here. I was looking up at this one because we noticed that this attaches to the ilium instead of the lesser trochanter. So it actually more trunk flexion. But according to Wikipedia, a very reliable source, only 40% of people have it. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to remember my cadaver days. This is probably a very tiny muscle. I don't remember seeing it. I'm sorry. But we did look at quite a few bodies. So memory's not like it should be. But it is supposed to attach a little bit higher too, almost going up into T12. So we'll talk about how the diaphragm, one-pointed attachment. We already talked about the xiphoid, right? Attaches sternum, but then it attaches down L1 to L3. And that's an area that I notice I'm always really tight in. That's where I really want to extend. That's where you got that transitional curve, the lumbar curve, and then the thoracic curve starts. So it's just trying to slope the other direction. Sometimes too much slope, or if you are the posterior, how we saw with that lumbar x-ray before, where it's kind of lack of curve, really curved at the bottom, then there's a bit of an S shape. Also dysfunctional for the diaphragm, right where that attachment is. We can see some changes based on breathing, probably very important. Hiatal hernias, let's talk about those quick. So weak muscles could be a cause of it herniation. It could be heavy lifting, coughing, surgery, obesity. So we can see esophagus comes down, runs in through the diaphragm, spears it, and sometimes the stomach itself can kind of rise up through that muscle if it's not strong enough. That sphincter is weak. You got to break through, and then acid kind of bubbles up and through there, so it's not down where it should be, and there's nothing to stop it. That sphincter can't close down it, so it's getting the acid reflux. So strengthening the diaphragm through breathing can help prevent this, or if you already have one, to help strengthen that muscle. Help, if you think about the air pushing down, that might actually drive that stomach back where it needs to be over time. I had a professor talk about filling it up with water, drinking 4 glasses really quick, and just like dropping down in your seat really quick to try to drop that stomach through the diaphragm. I don't know if that works. Apparently had good success with it. But strengthen the diaphragm, obviously, after you get into place, very important. So it stops going out. It's just like one of those bones we always have to keep adjusting. Won't stay in place. Lack of stability. Biomechanics to the rescue. All right. So the same exercises that can cause pelvic floor issues can cause hiatal hernia and other diaphragm issues, just weighted squats, barbell work, deadlifts. It's not that I want you to stop doing these exercises. Just want to counteract them. Sometimes even, if you're in trouble, you do the same exercises, lighter weight, really focus on your form. And in the meantime, some foundation training. Here's chair pose, the foundation training version of chair pose, really engaging that diaphragm, keeping it contracted as you raise the arms. Sometimes as we raise the arms, we go into full extension and we lose that anchor, right? That's what I call it, anchoring. And then we're not letting it go. We're not going to bend at the spine. You have to lock it down, keep it in there. And that's normally I'm talking about, I do the measuring stick hands. That's all I'm usually saying the Psoas, the hip flexor distance. But we could also, I like to think about the pelvic floor now, the diaphragm. Now that I've been nerding out on these things, it makes sense too. And we have direct attachment from the Psoas to the diaphragm. So if that makes more sense to you, think about it in that way. Essentially, we're engaging, so the spine doesn't bend. It's normally what I say, don't let the spine bend, but the reason is because when it does bend, we lose that proper engagement of the diaphragm. So when we're in the position, we won't be able to take deep breaths, and the pelvic floor won't be able to support, especially if you've got weights on you. I call it bottoming out, right? Especially the women. Me, it's like lack of motion. If you go to do a snatch, they can drop all the way down and hold that weight, and then drive up through that. But a lot of times, pelvic floor isn't being supported. So over time, it could lead to lower back issues. A couple of patients like that. Really strong, lift more weight than me, even as women. It's really impressive. That's actually not that impressive that you lift more than me, but it's really strong, but also can have degeneration in that lower back. So it's really depressing to them because they're like, I'm working really hard, but I have these problems, and we just need a couple tweaks. And it takes some time to heal from that because it wasn't just one bad deadlift, right? It was just over time. Maybe we never really thought about or taught ourselves to breathe right or engage our pelvic floor correctly. So then we kind of have to work backwards. It's better to start out at the beginning learning these things, these basic things. Same with me on a lot of recovery. Shoulder is really restricted. It's taking me a long time to try to work through all this stuff. And if you think about like where you've come from, that helps. Look back to where I was, like, oh my gosh, so much better. But at the same time, looking up, at the top of the peak. You never reach the peak of the mountain, but you're always going. You're always getting better. Otherwise, you're down in Death Valley, whining and moaning, saying it's all my genetics. It's just nothing I can do about it. I just have to get all these surgeries. No, you don't. We can make changes. It's possible. So we haven't really talked about too much of the attachments. So because we do have xiphoid, like we talked about, right here. And then we have the ribs. So the lower six? Yeah, lower six costal cartilages. Those are the ribs here in the front. And then we have L1 through 3, so a direct attachment onto the anterior portion of the spine, the front there. Like we said, the sympathetic chain actually runs down below that medial cruciate ligament. We'll look at that in a second. All right. C3, 4, and 5. Getting your neck adjusted. Ooh, wow, so surprised that the whole body's connected. C3 and 4 and 5, keep your diaphragm alive is how I remember it. And that's the phrenic nerve. And also your vagus nerve is important to the lungs themselves, which is C1. So yeah, getting your neck looked at, if you're not a chiropractic patient, might be a good idea. Sometimes I'll even notice I'll be working a spasm and kind of just lightly compressing or decompressing in that C3 region, C4 region. I can just feel it. You almost feel that traction from the neck and the diaphragm. And you can just feel those spasms in there, that imbalance, either it's on one side or just so tight. When it's like that, they can't get a good breath in. Even these young kids, it's like, how is that happening? Could be from birth. If they're coming out, doctors, think about it. People are always worried about like getting their kids adjusted. Like, you ever watched a birth? Even like a C-section is not nice to the neck or whatever they can grab on. A lot of dislocated arms during C-sections or just grabbing whatever. Shoulder dystocia, grabbing that neck, a little twisting. I was working on a little kid the other day. Dang, that neck was bad. It's like trying to get C1 in, and it's really light. It's really light adjustments, and it wasn't moving. And I had to go work in this muscle. It was like this spasm. You'd feel like, it's like, this has been here for 10 years. No, it's impossible. This kid's 2 weeks old. How? And then working that, and then it so easy went in. But it's like, I'm pushing this little much pressure. They're grabbing the neck and doing this. It's like, people are, don't take your kids to the chiropractor. Well, I'm saying, like, don't let your kids be born. Jeez. It's traumatic. And then if that's, never corrected, is it going to affect their breathing? Yeah, could. Could also be not learning to crawl, cross-crawl issues growing up, just too much sitting at a desk, sitting, technology, really affects our breathing and our pelvic floor engagement. Arcuate ligament. I don't know what I said. Cruciate ligament before. Arcuate ligament is the attachment for the psoas. Psoas, medial, arcuate ligament. And like we said, the sympathetic chain coming down there. So if that's tight, could that, because it's supposed to be opening, closing. But if it's not, constant pressure on sympathetics could be leading to stress, irritation, sympathetic, fight or flight. Could be shutting off our diaphragmatic breathing and stimulating overuse of the accessory muscles, especially in the elderly. You'll see that. Parkinson's patients, a lot of not using the diaphragm, overuse of the shoulders. Seen that one. Here's some more of the neck muscles. Ooh, that's blurry. That's making me dizzy. But you guys know. You already know. Neck's a big problem. And we think, oh, it's got to be the neck. Stretch the neck. Stretch the neck. Let's think foundation. Let's think breathing. Let's think last video. Let's think pelvic floor, supporting the spine. Because both these active postures, whether you're the cheerleader or the role model, you're either retracting your shoulders or you're hiking them up, overusing those traps. Both are really working at your spine and working at your pelvic floor and your diaphragm. Here's some more of those. Scalenes from the front here. You can see these running down, going to the ribs. And a lot of these muscles we need to, strengthen too. Lengthen them, get them in the proper position, and then take a breath. A lot of people, I'm just trying to work with the stance before they can do an exercise. So, oh, it hurts. It makes my arm go numb when I do this stretch. Just getting them to hold themselves right. And then like, oh, I feel the stretch there. Like, I'm just here doing this stretch now. Whereas before, it's like, oh, yeah, it hurts. Makes me go numb. Well, what do you do in your body? You got to learn to hold yourself first. Learn to breathe first. It's a basic thing before you go into these big stretches sometimes. A lot of them are bending at your spine, trying to stretch your shoulders. It's the same way that I'm always talking about, the forward fold, going to the ground. You're warping the spine completely to get down there just so you could feel a little stretch in your hamstrings. Or we could just isolate the hamstring at the stretch there so we don't have to distort the spine to get there. It's the same with the shoulders. They'll extend and I'm like, oh, no, I kind of feel that stretch. You don't really have to go that far, because then you can cause more problems. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul. All right, and then we're back to this, back to the pelvic floor. So we have come full circle. So yes, I will put together a video, probably just me running through some breathing exercises, foundation training style. In the Get Out of Pain Challenge, there was a couple. If you want to check those out right now, you're really bored. The day 7 was the supine swim, which was really all about breathing, laying on the ground, really tough. And I think day 4, the woodpecker, was also that big inhale, kind of pulling those arms, exhale. And I say exhale on the exertion because I don't like to say blow as you go because it sounds weird. But if either of those helps you, the breathing is in through the nose, out through the mouth. And you can try to delay it if you want. It's tough when you're doing a lot of these exercises. I was doing like the 8-point plank challenge the other day. It's like, remember to breathe. That's my trouble. I have trouble. I've tried. Breathing is tough for me, for sure. So sometimes the more strenuous the exercise, the last thing on your mind is breathing. So it's just find that position. Yeah, you're shaking, but that one's good. I like the 8-point plank because you can really feel that subscap, everything trying to expand because you're in that position. You put your spine in the right position. And that's the trick with a lot of these. And that's why foundation training is good. Get your spine in the right position. Because otherwise we're looking like at that very first picture we had, or the very first picture. This guy here, right? We want the spine straight so these guys can work together. All right, get the interference out of the way. I've been Dr. Klein. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions or you want a topic that you really want me to delve into, let me know all about that. I think we're going to be moving into the rotator cuff of the shoulder, but also the rotator cuff of the hip. I'm not sure which one I'm going to talk about. Maybe I could do it in one episode, but you know me, it's probably not going to happen. We'll probably spread it out, but those are going to play it part with the rest of this. It's not like we're branching off. It's just help us see things a little bit better every time. A little bit of information as we go. And this stuff, I know I call it nerdy, but it's really not that crazy. It's a lot for some people. But if you watch this again, it's pretty basic. All right, I'm signing off. Thanks for watching.